There is nothing worse in a marriage than having to constantly walk around on eggshells. Every time you say something, he gets angry or he shuts down. And so you always feel like you have to tippy-toe around and be really careful about what to say so that you don't stir up those emotions. Well, now I'm going to talk you through how he really wants you to speak to him, but also how to act around him so that you can completely shift the dynamic around your marriage. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to get you to adapt who you are in order to just meet his needs. What this is really about is learning about the fundamentals of male psychology and male communication so that you can shift your approach and ultimately create an environment where both of you are able to thrive. Now, before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button below and click on that bell notification as well, so every week you get access to my latest videos where I talk more about male psychology, go deeper into understanding marriages, and really how to elevate you and become the very best version of yourself. So not only are you improving in terms of showing up in the best way in your marriage, but also for your own self and really being in the best place mentally and emotionally. Now, the first approach you want to take when it comes to speaking with him, but also acting around him, is what we call lightness. See, a lot of men are actually afraid of their wives. I know it sounds a little bit strange, but that's the reality of it. So they feel they have to be very, very careful around what they say. Now, part of the challenge is that men and women tend to communicate in very different ways, which is to say the masculine and the feminine energies communicate in very different ways. Now, let's say he says, "Hey, hun, do you mind if I go and have a drink this evening with Johnny and Bobby and whoever it is?" And you haven't had much quality time with him. You might say, "Yeah, sure, no worries. Yep, no, you go. For a lot of guys, they're going to hear that and say, "Okay, so you said, yep, go." So then they will go. You can tell here that whoever's saying, yeah, no, you go ahead, whoever's saying that knows that they don't really want their husband to go off with their friends. But the man is just simply hearing the direct communication there. They're not hearing the indirect communication in terms of the tonality shift and the differences around that. So what does he do? He goes off with his mates. Little does he know, though, that what you're really hoping for is for him to say, "Oh, no, honestly, like, it's fine. I want to make sure he spends some quality time with you." And making sure that he actually wants to do that, not just out of obligation, he actually wants to do that. But you can see here that you have two people who have different intentions in that particular moment. Now, what does that mean? Well, fundamentally, for a guy in that situation, over time, he's going to feel frustrated that he doesn't have the freedom to do the things that he wants. Equally, the female is going to feel frustrated and hurt because she's not getting the quality time from him. So that's why it's really important to have this sense of lightness about you, have that light energy. Now, obviously, there are circumstances that need to be addressed. If you're not getting the quality time that you want, well, that needs to be discussed. But it needs to be discussed in a light-hearted way. So, for example, one of the things that me and my wife do, and it's a bit of fun and games, but if she feels like she needs a little bit more from me, what she'll often do is, just be a little bit cute and like run around the house and say like, chase me. Or, she might even send me a little text which has the acronym DYERM, which is, "Do you even remember me?" And it's just a complete joke. We all know it's funny, but there is a little message underneath it just saying, "Hey, I just need a little bit more." And so little messages like that, little words like that, or even just saying, "Do you even remember me?" and just as a little bit of a joke once again, is effectively implying to me, "Hey, I need a little bit more, but I trust that you will deliver for me." As opposed to getting frustrated, getting angry, shutting down, being all quiet, silent treatment, that kind of behavior, which is going to result in the man getting frustrated and he's going to react. Now, this is where the eggshells part comes into it, because over time, the man can start to get frustrated and then get angry or, shut down. And that then forces the female to then go, "Geez, none of this is working. I need to be really, really careful about what I say because I don't want to get him annoyed." So lightness is absolutely key. You've got to make sure you apply that into your life. Now, whether it's using some of the examples that I talked about or whether it's creating your own versions of that, It's really important to start doing that as well. Now, the second way that you want to approach communication with him is to stop the passive aggressiveness. And what I'm talking about here is silent treatment, or constantly pouting and sighing, or keeping score all the time, where if you do something, then you're expecting something in return all the time. Or even if you seem like you're angry, that you might say, no, I'm fine, or no, there's nothing to worry about, it's okay. Now, the problem with this sort of communication is that even though men sometimes aren't the best at communicating from an emotional perspective, what happens is they can still feel the inauthenticity. They can still feel the fact that they know that you're not happy at the moment. And so they start to get frustrated because there's not an actual direct level of communication. There's an indirect level of communication. And that begins to get quite frustrating for a lot of guys in marriages. They start to feel like, oh, look, she just gets annoyed at me for no reason. I don't even know what I did, and she's just pissed off at me for some reason. And this is such a commonplace because a lot of men don't understand what's actually driving that behavior. And that's why some direct level of communication is so important. So if you are feeling this, if you're finding yourself in moments where you get frustrated and you're aware of it, and you're getting into passive aggressive patterns, then what's really important is that you utilize some techniques. It's firstly important to really understand what's actually going on at a deeper level. What's actually driving those emotions and those frustrations? Is it that you're feeling rejected? Is it that you're feeling abandoned? Is it that you're just not getting the attention that you're looking for? Is it that you just don't feel understood by him? Being aware of that is the first step. Then from there, what we need to do is say, okay, well, how can I shift my emotional state? And then thirdly, what can I do to make sure that I communicate, some of my frustrations, some of my hurt, etc., to him in a way that is productive and practical, not in a way that just vents your own emotions. Now, I know that's sometimes a little bit frustrating because, you want to be able to speak your truth. And some of you may have husbands who you can do that. But for a lot of women out there, they don't have the husbands who can actually deal with that, who can actually cope with those kind of emotions and cope with that kind of language. So that means that, you have to evolve as a person and become the very best version of yourself, which means learning to shift those emotions, working through those emotions within your own self, and then from there, using the right language to express how you feel. Because, we're not always going to be happy, and it's okay sometimes to speak your truth, but it's just about doing it in the right way. So the right way would often be making sure you find him in a moment where, he seems relatively calm and relatively relaxed. And you say to him something like, listen, honey, I just wanted to bring up something just from the other night. And I don't want to harp on about it too much, but it's just something I just want to express a little bit, was that part of the reason why I felt a little bit frustrated about what was going on was because, I felt, a little bit like this, and I felt a little bit like this. And I know that these are things that I need to work through within myself, but what I would really love is, for me, a lot of that comes from the fact I haven't really felt like we've been spending a huge amount of quality time of late. And, I know that we, spend time watching TV and so on, but what I'd love is if we could go out for a beautiful date night or go for a nice walk or something like that. And there's nothing more that I love than to spend quality time with you. You light me up. I love being around you. You're such an amazing person, and so on. If you go down that track, it's going to have a much better response than if you were to just be annoyed, be frustrated, and hope that he just understands what's actually going on inside of you, which is most likely he probably won't know the deeper details of what's going on. And thirdly, make sure that you're actually releasing some of the control and the criticism and so on directed towards him. One of the biggest complaints I get from my male clients is this fact that they don't feel like their wives really respect them or, really have faith in them on any level. It's so important for a guy to feel that level of faith. They want to be propped up by their wife. They want to be feeling like they're actually doing something, that they're adding value. Now, I know there are going to be some men out there who are constantly frustrated and hurt and angry, and that even though you might say some of these things, he won't feel it. The reality is that he's doing those things because he's in pain. He's hurting. But the only way that we help people who are hurting is by actually giving love and to lift them up. You know, communication is an art, it's not a science. There are moments where the right language and the right tonality and the right body language and emotions can have a really profound impact. But equally, you can use those same techniques at the wrong time with that person, and it can blow them up because they feel like, no, I don't, I feel like I'm useless, I'm a failure, etc., etc. And that can happen a lot, especially if you're dealing with a guy there who's just doesn't have a very good sense of self and pretty low self-esteem. So a big part of your job here is to elevate him. Now I know, once again, that it's frustrating sometimes to feel like, look, but I'm the one that's actually needing a lot of help. I'm needing a lot of support at the moment. I can't keep giving to you. But that's where we actually have to. You know, if you're really committed to wanting to create a beautiful marriage, part of that is about having a commitment towards the other person, you know, in sickness and in health. And it's really about saying, okay, well, that person is struggling at the moment. My job is to try and elevate him as much as I can. How can I do that? To have actual faith in what he does. If he's doing beautiful things at work, or, you know, if he's just really kind and compassionate, or if he's doing some great things in terms of philanthropy, or even if there's something that he knows a lot about, let's say he's, I don't know, randomly into Formula One, or, you know, some other sporting event, have an active interest in that. Try and learn some things about it, because if he feels like you're actually interested and you're wanting to be a part of it, then he's going to want to share that on some level as well. It's going to lift him up. So we've got to understand where that person is at. We've got to pick the right moment when they're not, you know, too low or too frustrated, you know, and trust your gut instinct as well. There might be a part of you that just goes, yeah, something doesn't quite feel right here, so I'm not going to say it. But there's going to be a part of you that goes, yeah, actually, this is the time to say it. And do it in a really caring and a loving way and a compassionate way. And it can really have a huge impact. Lift him up, fill him up, make him feel significant, make him feel respected. It has a really beautiful impact on other people. And finally, which I believe is the pillar to it all, is about actually healing from within. Because if we're not healing from within, if we're not working through the deeper wounds inside of ourselves, then what happens is everything that we say, everything we do, is coming from the filters of our wounds. So if you're feeling those deeper wounds of inadequacy and you feel like you're not good enough, then every action, every behavior, and every word that you say will come through the filters of feeling like you're not good enough. And that's going to have a huge impact in the quality of your marriage. And that's why you want to elevate you. You want to know that you're enough just as you are. There are many techniques to do this and help you through a long period of time, but it's a really important thing to actually do. You've got to grow you and heal you. If you want to learn a little bit more about this, check out that webinar in the description section below, where I talk you through this 3 steps that my client Sarah used to be able to save her marriage. And I go deep into the actual transformation piece internally, which I know is such a powerful part of the process. But you've got to really have the mindset of saying, I am going to grow and heal me. And as I do that, then everything can start to shift, because emotionally you're in a more grounded place. And when you're in a more grounded place, your energy comes across differently. You use different language. Your heart starts to open up more. We're more kind, more compassionate, we're more understanding. Even if someone is going through some tough stuff, we're not looking at it as that's really hurting me when they do that. We're thinking, man, it's really unfortunate they're going through such a tough time here, but what can I do to actually help them? These are the 4 steps that I believe that you can use immediately to start changing the way in which you communicate, so that he really is going to respond better and connect with you in a much better way. If you've liked this video, make sure you hit that like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And do let me know if you've got any questions or comments on this video. I always love hearing some of the questions and the comments, and I'll make sure I respond to every single one of you. And what I encourage you to do now is that, you know, if you are feeling like your marriage is in a really, really precarious position, you're trying to figure out how to go about saving your marriage, just make sure you click this video above, and I'll talk you through the next steps on what you can do to maximize your chances of saving your marriage with your husband. God bless, and I'll talk to you in the next video.